Hi, welcome to Tea Time at the Movies. I'm your host, Tea Time. Welcome to the show. I hope you have your beverage. Guess who got the microphone working right here? Me. A couple of Google searches will do wonders here for working technology. Thanks for tuning in. We got a great show for you today. I saw three movies for this week. We saw Superman, the new Superman, of course. We saw Abraham's Boys, a new Dracula story, and Skillhouse, the new horror thriller. How was your 4th of July weekend there? Pretty good. How are the fireworks near you? Near me, they weren't that bad here in Chicago. Usually they go crazy, but I don't know. The 4th was it went on a Friday. They didn't go that crazy this year for whatever reason. And we live right next to Indiana, so usually people go over and get the illegal fireworks and put on a show all night. But I don't know, they were pretty reasonable this year. I don't know what it was. Maybe Brandon Johnson's working it. Working his what he's doing is working, at least for the fireworks. All right, for hopefully by you as well, the fireworks aren't that bad. The summer blockbusters are back. Last week it was Jurassic World. This week, Superman. Nothing else. No. Abraham's Boys and Skillhouse, I guess, also came out. Not that they're blockbusters. Would note here I had from the movies I've seen lately. Did the writers not come back from strike? Are they still striking? Because these movies that I've seen lately haven't been well written. All right, let's do it up here. First one here is Superman 2025. All right, from writer James Gunn. Of course, we know James Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxies 1 through 3 with the Marvel universe, the Suicide Squad in the old DC universe, and I also wrote here. He wrote movie 43, directed movie 43, which was an odd movie, not a terrible movie, but I was just surprised to see a director. I didn't realize he directed and wrote that movie. Well, it had a ton of writers. Whatever. We're talking about Superman here. The cast here: David Cornsweet is the new Superman. Clark Kent as well. Rachel Brosnahan is here as Lois Lane. She's of course from House of Cards, the marvelous Miss Maisel. I didn't see too many movie roles. This is her leap into movies. She was good in House of Cards and Marvelous Maisel first season. I stopped watching after the second season. Nicholas Hoult is in here as Lex Luthor. Of course, he's Beast from X-Men. He was in Mad Max. Played that bald, talk about bald representation. That was some good bald representation in Mad Max by him. Warm Bodies, he was great in. And I first saw him in About a Boy. I saw that movie in theaters with my brother years ago, and we were laughing our heads off. It was a great movie, and he was, the kid in that movie. Good child actor, Nicholas Hoult. All right, let's see some of the other huge cast in this. Tons of characters, too many characters. Some of the other notable ones I wrote down. Part of the cast: Edie Gathegi. He played Mr. Terrific. He was terrific. He was good in this role. Nathan Fillion plays Guy Gardner. I don't know. Isabel Merced plays Hawkgirl. And many more. Too many to write down, too many to note. All right. It's Superman. The plot. You're thrust into the plot. You've seen the trailer. You've seen everything they put out before the release. It's basically Superman is trying to be taken down by Lex Luthor, the old classic plot. Although not a huge Superman comic book fan, but Lex Luthor's trying to take down Superman with the help of the internet, disparaging about the internet, with disparaging his character, trying to disparage him, and with just the plot. Yeah, I won't reveal anything here, but that's basically the plot. If you like comic movies, they kind of get fanciful with the plot. So was this a go see or no thanks, not for me? Unfortunately, this was a no thanks, not for me. I'm not a huge Superman fan. Did I believe that he was Superman? David Cornsweet. I did, But this movie was too convoluted with too many characters. It was 2 hours and 9 minutes. It felt like it should have been, 20, 30 minutes more. It seemed like there were some payoffs at the end that weren't built up at the beginning. Seems like a lot were cut, so a lot of reshoots. Overall, it just didn't have a nice flow to it. Not enough action. I did enjoy the action scene in the baseball field. But, other than that, there wasn't too much action because they cut into the movie where Superman's like almost defeated. And instead of showing that, they just, show him. And then, his dog comes in, Christ, the dog, and saves him. But here, let me put up this. I had this banner here, Superman spoiler. Sorry about that. If I don't think I spoiled anything that wasn't already in the trailers. But this movie didn't have a nice flow. All right, let's see. You're just thrust into this plot. Pick a better plot to start. I know we can't go through an origin scene in every single superhero movie, but if you're going to build the world from scratch, we haven't been introduced to anything. A title sequence with 30 years ago, he was set here by his parents. 3 years ago, he came out of Superman. 30 weeks ago, he started. 3 minutes ago, he was the. Pick a better place to start the movie. Superman's constantly getting beat. I don't want to see laying down acting. Unless it's in a porno. And Corn Sweat is on his back half the movie. He's on the ground because he's been defeated at the beginning or in the middle when he's in the pocket universe being beaten down by kryptonite. And then later he does get, a little bit beaten too. It's like, I don't want to see that Superman. I want to see him win a bunch, not constantly being saved. Conflicting morals in this. They show Superman saving people. Great. I love it. He even saves a squirrel at the beginning. But then later the Justice Gang is fighting this another beast. You've seen it in the trailers and it's like the floating thing in the city. And the Justice Gang is fighting, and Superman says, "Oh, they got it." But if you're going to show him saving a squirrel, asking people if they're okay after there's been a fire in a building, you can't then show him going like, "Oh, those guys got it." I just want to talk to you, Lois, about have you talk down to me for 10 minutes. That's not what I want to see. If he cares about people being in danger, he'd be out there saving it until that thing is gone, and everyone's safe. You're not, a Superman if you're doing that. There were horrible parent casting in this. I didn't believe those parents at all. And if it's set in the modern day with the technology we have and everything, you're gonna have to show us his upbringing because I'm 38. I don't know how people 38 under were raised nowadays. With they didn't watch Nick at Night like I did. They were raised with the internet when they were kids. The internet came later for me. They had porno starting when they were, get into an age to do that. Poor action. A lot of the action was Superman fighting in the air with Ultraman, who is a clone of him. It's a clone of Superman. That's Ultraman. Is a Superman, and it's a lot of the action is them fighting in the air, floating around, fighting each other. That's nonsensical. The one scene in the baseball field was okay. Some of the other action, there wasn't too much. They fight that kaiju where Superman is saving a bunch of people, which was okay, but they didn't show the kaiju, the animal thing, getting as big as it is, as big as a story, building, a 10-story building or whatever it was big. As show that seemed a little interesting. Let's see. I'm just looking at my notes here. The pocket universe that Lex Luthor creates. Okay, he's a genius, a super evil genius or whatever, and he had to imprison a lot of people and stuff. But that's a idea I've seen in James Gunn's other movies with The Collector or whatever, in the Guardians of the Galaxy, where people are in cages or in boxes being held. That's the same thing in the pocket universe. Some of the other Mr. Fantastic was cool. He had some of the coolest scenes, some of the coolest action, but the scene where he comes in and saves Lois Lane, he puts like a bubble around her, and then he has these spheres that go around working like in the Guardians of the Galaxy, that that arrow where he whistles and it does everything. A lot of these ideas we've seen from James Gunn before, which is why why it's no thanks, not for me. Some of his ideas are being reused in this in ways that are exactly the same. Doesn't make it good just because it was good once. So the thing that felt like a comic book was the Lex Luthor plot and those sequences, especially with the when it made up bullshitopia he was from, the Russian guy, I guess, where they go into the pocket universe. That was kind of cool, comic booky. Where Lex Luthor splits reality in the Earth, or is starting in Metropolis, was maybe an idea in comic books that you can kind of animate the world splitting, but in a live action movie it doesn't really work. It was kind of cringeworthy. I'm going to go back to Ultraman being a clone of Superman. I'm not sure if that's comic book faithful. I'm not a big, like I said, Superman fan, but the Lex Luthor could clone Superman. Why don't you just make like 30 Supermen to take away, to defeat Superman? And then, like, why would you go that far with cloning a supernatural beast, or human, or a supernatural being that's the strongest because of the sun? And then maybe you have that one line where, sure, he's dumb as hell, but, teach him. If Happy Gilmore can be taught, I think Superman can be dumb Superman. There's a lot to not like. It was very bright, very pretty, a lot of bright colors. I enjoyed when he was flying, the close up and him flying real fast. That was cool. Kind of felt like How to Train Your Dragon in those IMAX scenes. I didn't see this in IMAX. I saw it on a regular screen. If you're into comic books, I mean, you could probably tolerate this movie, but if you're just a regular movie goer, not really a Superman fan, there's too much cut out of the plot that it's noticeable, which doesn't make it a full movie. Just make it 2.5 hours if it's a Superman movie. I agree that not every movie can be 2.5 hours, but if it's Superman, you're building the world, build the fucking thing. Don't cut it out and, just leave bits and pieces here and there, with the little jokes and stuff. The funniest line in the movie was an improv scene when the guy from SNL, I forget his name, but he's funny with the mustache in this. They're in the spacecraft built by Mr. Fantastic, and everyone gets a seat at a seatbelt. He goes, "Why do I have no seat?" And it takes off, and he flies back. That was funny. A lot of the humor just didn't work for me. Like I said, a lot of the James Gunn humor, a lot of the ideas are all just rehashed in this. It felt like he made a movie. The studio saw it, felt it was too out there, and they went back, did some reshoots, and cut out a lot of the goofy stuff. But there's still too much goofy to cut out because it was too integral to the plot. James Gunn is better at telling an ensemble story than he is at the main character's story. So why not get somebody else to do the Superman directed? Be a producer, AP, So unless you're really a DC fan or have seen everything else, just want to see something this weekend, it's tolerable, but it's a skip. There's nothing in this that you haven't seen before or that you're missing. All right. Next up, we have Abraham's Boys. Change the scroll here. All right. Abraham's Boys is a Dracula's story. Abraham is the first name of Van Helsing. I guess his name is Abraham Van Helsing, I guess, or in this world, that's his first name. I didn't know that. I saw Van Helsing. I don't remember him bringing up his name years ago. This movie was shot in flat. It's a square up there. And they didn't change the masking in the theater I was in. It comes from writer-director Natasha Kermani, based on this short story by Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son. I guess he's written some short stories that have been made recently into movies. Let's see here. It tells the story of Van Helsing 18 years after he slays Dracula. He comes to the New World, settles in California to get away from his past, and hopefully, creatures of the night to build his family. but does the past come, knocking back? That's basically the story of this. Let's see. The writer director. Let's see. I don't think Natasha had anything I recognized. I didn't write anything down. The actors: Titus Welliner. He plays Abraham Van Helsing. Some of the things I recognize him from: The Town. Lots of TV credits. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I recognize him from. The kids are the two main characters in the story. Him, his two sons, and his wife. Brady Hepner plays Max. He comes from The Holdovers, The Black Phone he was in. I enjoyed that movie. The Holdovers 2 was pretty good. And Judah Mackey plays Rudy, the younger brother. Didn't recognize any of his credits. And Jocelyn Donahue plays Mina, the wife, the mother. She was from Dr. Sleep. Lots of small credits I didn't really recognize him from. Let's see here. Went over the plot. So Dracula. Went over the plot. So was this a T go see or no thanks not for me? Before I get into spoilers, this was unfortunately a no thanks not for me. This movie was too slow. There's too little plot. You could tell it was based on a short story because it was short on story. Slow to the plot. So spoilers here. Basically gets into, is Van Helsing a hero who killed Dracula to save the world, from vampires? Or is he just a crazy man who went on a murdering spree and escaped Europe to California to escape, I guess, the law, kind of, is where this movie delves into. Doesn't really answer it definitively. You see Dracula a little bit in, dream sequences the older son has. A little spooky, but you don't really get too much. The father kills people after they get sick. The movie opens with a woman on the road. Oh, this is set in the 1915, 1918, somewhere in there. He kills people after they get sick and after they turn, into vampires, according to him. The woman from the road he apprehends and locks in the basement of his house. The kids find the woman down there. Then he kills the woman. Claims that she's a vampire, will stake through the heart. He shows his children how to do that. The older son is maybe 16, 17. The younger son's maybe, 12. Big problem in this are the accents. My God. The father at least tried to have some sort of European accent. The kids, I guess, are from Central Casting, LA. They have modern accents. And are homeschooled. So if you're only learning from your parents and they're from Europe, who speak probably a different language, you're probably going to have those accents, not an American accent. If you're homeschooled growing up in 1908, when you get your first knowledge of language. So didn't make too much sense there. The mother is sick most of the time. She dies. Just a skip, not too much story, not too much plot. They end up killing the father at the end. The kids, kind of move on with their life. So it didn't really answer the question of vampires real or anything like that. But just a skip. You don't have to see it. If it's on Netflix or something, maybe, but not something you have to pay for. All right, next up here, we got the bell going. Skillhouse. Saw this one today. This was a Fathom event. No one else in the theater, just me. This comes from the writer-director Josh Stolberg. He's known from Piranha 3D, Good Luck Chuck, Jigsaw, Saw X from a few years ago. And this felt kind of like a Saw. Had some Saw ideas, some Saw kills. This is like an action horror. It's a horror thriller. What did I write down here? This movie is Saw meets Survivor meets Scream meets Searching. That movie from a few years ago where the girl goes missing and then they search for her kind of on the internet. Had that element of it. The cast, the plot of the Skillhouse is 10 influencers, like Instagram influencers, are kidnapped and locked into this house, and they have to garner attention or views online because the people with the lowest view count die. They show some bloody murders. The only people you'd recognize this is Neil McDonough. He was as good as this movie could have been. He's probably the best part of it. From Minority Report, of course. Sonic, Game Over Man, tons of TV credits. He's in everything. 50 Cent is in this. He's also a producer on it. He's in the movie as himself. 50 Cent. Plot. So was this a T-Go See or no thanks, not for me? Unfortunately, this was also a no thanks, not for me. Not a good week for movies here. Maybe a see something on Netflix this week. I wrote there, right? I guess the acting was okay for influencers. You could definitely tell they're all kind of playing their influencer characters. You could tell kind of who they are, like the girls that are influenced because of their skin or the bikinis or guys. It's all very shallow, very. It's all upfront to who the characters are, what the message of this movie is. This was a better as like a Black Episode Mirror, a very better as 40 minutes, half hour. They prolonged the middle part too long. Just start killing these people. No one really cares. The plot was it turns into Scream, at the end. The one thing this movie did well was it did a good job of telling a story with a lot of text going on, a lot of website usage, a lot of online searching, revealing through like the news and the kind of to tell the plot through the TV internet. It did a better job than I felt F1 did recently. Superman was kind of weak on that. It used that as a crutch. In a serious movie where this isn't really a serious movie, it's a horror movie, so to use it as a crutch kind of works better than in a Superman, big budget movie. This was a skip. Nothing really good in it. A couple of the murders seemed like Saw ideas that weren't used. There's one where a giant sword is dropped, or like a giant spike sword is dropped into a woman's mouth from a split, so you see it go through her. Some of the other ones. There's one where there's girls like tied to a chair and there's like axes swinging from the ceiling, so she's kind of like swinging back and forth in the chair and she's blindfolded, so you got to see the axes like almost hit her. That seemed like a real Saw. And one of the other ones was one of the Asian girls has to just tied up one arm and one leg, and he gives to her like sulfuric acid or some sort of acid, and he goes, live or die. Is it worth living with missing one arm, one leg, or to die? That was very sauce. But that's about it. Low budget, a lot of blood, not worth it. So this week, Superman, I would say a slightly no thanks, not for me. If you have to see something, I guess Superman was the best of these three, of course. Big budget, It just felt like Superman was a side in his own movie. If it's Superman, tell the Superman story. Don't tell everyone else's story. Or make it a different movie. We can have the focus not be Superman, I guess. I'm not sure. Well, that's all I had for this week. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments. If you agree, disagree, let me know. Thank you for watching. Remember that the T stands for truth. And that's a guarantee. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.